Good afternoon or good evening or wherever, good morning, wherever you are in the world. It's Peter calling from the community group. I'm not calling anybody. Um, I'm here to do a video about the Atlantic Rhythm and Blues series, which came out in 1985. It was a 7 double LP series. That's just the first one. I'll show you them all very soon. That's how they looked as a gatefold. Covered the broad spectrum of soul, rhythm and blues music by the label, released on the label between 1947 and 1974. As you may know, Atlantic was one of the preeminent labels of that genre at the time. Had their peak period in the early to mid to late 60s, with people like Otis Redding, Wilson Pickett, Aretha Franklin, Booker T. and the MGs, a whole lot of range of people on that label, before they went more mainstream, going into the 70s, signing up rock acts such as Cream and Led Zeppelin and Vanilla Fudge and the like. That's a story for another day. Anyway, but I want to focus on this series. Now, the series was 7 double LPs, came out in 1985. I acquired them at the time. 4 of them were given as a gift, a Christmas present, for the volumes from my first wife then, I taught Dutch blonde, named Yolanda. These were gifts for me. I acquired the other 3 volumes along the way. Each of the volumes covers a period of like 4 years. That first volume is 1947 to 52. Right. So you've got a range of people such as Joe Morris, Tiny Grimes, Stick McGee, which had the first major Atlantic Records hit was Drinking Wine Spody 80. Right? I'll show you a replica of that 45 later on in the other box set we look like here. You've got Ruth Brown, you've got Professor Longhair, you've got Joe Morris, the Clovers, the Cardinals, Big Joe Turner is on here, and Ray Charles, okay? To start with, we're getting into stuff, Atlantic Records was created by the Erdogan brothers, Nassiri and Ahmed, who were jazz experts themselves, had a large record collection. That story has been told elsewhere. I'm not going to go into that. But yes, this is a brilliant series. There's 28 tracks average per volume. That's the first one. The second volume is from 52 to 55. We're getting into people like the Diamonds. Again, Ray Charles is prominent on here. Laverne Baker, Big Joe Turner, Club McFadden and the Drifters. Before Club McFadden went off solo. Are on here. This is volume 2 from 52 to 55. Liner notes are really extensive. Brilliant liner notes on this. One thing I do love about these kind of compilations is being able to read about what I'm listening to, the history of it. Volume 3 is 55 to 58, and we're getting into the Turner still here, Ray Charles still here, the Coasters, the Clovers, Joe Hunter, Chuck Willis. Okay, the Coasters were being produced at the time by Jerry Lieber and Mark Stoller, a pair of songwriters, who wrote Hound Dog, which was recorded by Big Mama Thornton, and then later recorded by Elvis Presley with different lyrics, and a completely different song, so to speak. That's volume 3. Volume 4 comes into 58 to 62, so we're getting into pre-Beatle era, we're getting into the producers era. Ray Charles has become very prominent now. The Coasters and the Drifters are very popular as well. Benny King's broken off from the Drifters. Carter Thomas, Solomon Burke. You've got the Falcons. You've got, I think Wilson Pickett was in the Falcons originally. Yeah, so Benny King's again gone solo. Booker T and the MGs make their first appearance in here with Green Onions. The great fold there. Again, all of these are identical. The liner notes, extensive liner notes. Getting into 58, 63, 66, we're going into the cusp of pre-Beatles, Beatlemania era of it. Forgetting all that for now. We're getting into where soul music starts to take hold. Drifters, Benny King, Solomon Burke, Otis Redding makes his first appearance here. Rufus Thompson, Walking the Dog, Esther Phillips, Don Covey, Mercy Mercy, Willie T. You've got Wilson Pickett here, Midnight Hour. So we're getting into that that famous backbeat that Atlantic Records rhythm sections developed, the delayed backbeat. Sam and Dave, Percy Sledge, When a Man Loved a Woman. He had the one major hit that he had, but he had more than that. You know, there's some great stuff and a compilation that I've got of his. Hold On, I'm Coming, of course. We've got Sam and Dave. Don Covey's Seesaw. That's 62 to 66. So we're getting into the meat and bones of it now with volume 6, 64 to 66 to 69 is really the meat and bones of the soul era of Atlantic Records when they really hit their peak. When they had the association with Stax Records at the time, which ended in 1968 when Atlantic sold to Warner Brothers. Stax had first refusal to either go with them or not go with them, and they opted to stay put and not go with Atlantic, which did hurt Stax in some way, in one way that the back catalogue of Stax Records went with Atlantic, and so when Stax restarted they couldn't retain their back catalogue. I've got 3 volumes of Stax Vault singles over there, 3 boxes, and volume 2 and 3 is virtually a new label without a back catalogue, which is unfortunate. Anyway, that's how it works. So recordings by Sam and Dave and by Otis Redding and by a whole lot of other artists, Booker T and MG on that label went with Atlantic, so that's why they'll appear on these volumes. You got Aretha Franklin really hit her stride now after wasted years at Columbia Records. I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You and Do Right Woman. Other comments, Sweet Soul Music, Sam and Dave, Something Wrong with My Baby. All the way through to Dock of the Bay with Otis, his final single. Aretha Franklin, Roberta Flack's First Time I Ever Saw Your Face is on here. Big Reeves, Tackle Led Maria, Brooke Benton, Radio 9 in Georgia. So that's this is really the peak period of Atlantic soul music at that time. Atlantic Stax, and that's it. That strong association they had with the Stax label at the time. So that's 66 to 69. The final volume of that is volume 7 going into 69 to 74. Less tracks on this one. The others are all averaged 28 tracks. These ones, that last one, yeah, they're averaging 28 tracks. This one, because the tracks are longer, because you've got Les McCann and Eddie Harris, which I mentioned in the jazz volume, the jazz soul volume, particularly on the Atlantic Jazz box set. You've got Compared to What, again, makes an appearance in here. You've got Tyrone Davis, Johnny Hathaway Together, which is quite lengthy. So you've got average of 5 tracks per side as opposed to 7. Of them 15, you've got 18 tracks here. So you've got 10 less tracks on this volume. Now, one thing I'll point out is that the CD equivalents of these LPs were pretty much the same, except there were a few slight differences in that. The CDs reduced track numbers in certain volumes to keep them to a single CD. That was a common practice back in the 80s and 90s, where if they wanted to facilitate a single CD, they would actually delete a couple of songs from certain volumes. Some volumes actually were able to keep it intact, but a couple of the other volumes couldn't. Now, so if you're buying them on CD, just bear in mind that if you happen to find these individuals on CD, while they're identical, pardon me, hiccup. While they're identical, you will find a couple of tracks missing. Apparently nothing essential, but still a little bit annoying. that they couldn't retain the whole thing. I mean, rather than go to a double CD, Paul McCartney did it with his All the Best CD back in '87, where he kept it to they kept it to a 17-track CD and a 20-track double LP, and it would remove 3 tracks. Anyway, Atlantic followed that up in '91 where they boxed it all up. Now I'll show you this box. This is the box that these LPs were actually boxed up into a set that looked like this, right? But that box set will read 186 tracks. This one says 203. What they did with this CD set, this was expanded to 203 tracks on it. There are 17 extra tracks on this box set compared to the LP version and compared to the original CD version as well. The box set itself is 8 CDs instead of 7. Not only have they increased the CD count, but they've added 17 tracks that aren't on the LP set. Now we're getting into a period here where CD became the most prominent format. LPs were starting to fade away, to the point where the CD box set was ruling the roost. The CD box set was probably the best way to collect these things anyway. The possibilities of any number of CDs box sets in there, and particularly when you're getting into label discographies and label overviews, they're the best way to, or when you've got either a label overview or an artist's career perspective where they can cross over multiple labels. The CD box set came into its own big time, and I've got any number of box sets in there that are absolutely brilliant in the way they're put together. When they started to get, after the initial surge of CD, where there was a rush to put things out, without much thought to it, when the labels started to get their act together and started to do it really well, then you started to see some really good products. Otis Redding got a box set. In fact, there was a 3 CD set called the Otis Redding Studio, which is brilliant, in a fat pack with 3 CDs, 60 tracks. But then they followed that up with a 4 CD box as well, which I've also got, which I found second hand many years later. I think I found it at a record fair, or somebody had it. Got off them. But getting back to this CD box, 8 CDs. The average track length on these is 26 tracks per disc. Right? A couple of them were 28. Nothing less than 26, I think. Comes with a brilliant booklet, and this is what you want. Now the liner notes from each of those LPs is replicated into here, plus you've got additional notes for the extra tracks as well. I believe the CDs had similar liner notes in their booklets with their similar notes. I never had the CD versions of those LPs at the time. I was content with the LPs. And I think the reason I didn't buy the CD was the fact that they were missing tracks off them. I was happy to have the LPs. That's got the booklet. Okay, there's no booklet in the box set of the LPs. The LP box is available on eBay if you want to find it. It's generally available at a reasonable price. They're getting a bit expensive. That Landing Jazz box set I did earlier, also getting a bit pricey. Right? If it's in really pristine condition, you'll expect to pay upwards of $400 or more for it. The Atlantic Rhythm and Blues box set, the LP version of it, yeah, getting up around that price too. I remember seeing one only recently. That's the booklet. And the booklet's quite extensive, which is what you want. You've got, I'm not sure how many pages are on this thing, but because the pages aren't numbered, that's the trouble. But you've got, I'll just give you a smattering of what they look like. So you've got photos, a profile of each artist, going through each of their tracks that are included on here. Right. You go Turner there. At the end there you've got an overview, you've got a disc by disc detail of who played what and where. In fact you've got a lot of information here about who played what on each track. which is great to know, you know. So who produced it, who wrote them, the whole thing. So you've got some great information here. This is what CD boxes used to do. I think they may still do it if they're still around. But this is what a CD box should do. It should educate. First and foremost, it should educate. These are some great liner notes. The research in this is pretty great. These are on that label. That's how they look. They all look the same. Okay. So what they did here was because the additional tracks and possibly they took a couple of tracks off the first volume, put it on the next volume as you go along with the CDs. So there's a lot of bumping along. Then you're adding tracks as you go along as well, which is what they did here. So that's the CD box. As I said, 203 tracks on here, 186 tracks on the LP version. So the LP version, as I said, is as it is. It just 8 LPs or 7 LPs, 7 double LPs that are boxed up in something like the other one. It would look like that. Okay. And it's the case like the Atlantic Jazz box. Okay. No booklet, but all the information is in the liner notes, and the liner notes are pretty much repeated in the booklet of the CD box. The CD box I would recommend if you wanted to go that way. You wanted the extra track particularly. The information's amazing, and they sound pretty good as well. So the one thing about the Atlantic label, they did do something really, really good with their back catalogue. However, having said that, I'm going to mention something else that Atlantic did later, and this is a box set called Time Capsule. It's a CD box, it's a 10 CD box, it's 9 CDs and a DVD. The DVD is the documentary, the house that Ahmet built. It's about Atlantic Records. This has got, actually it's got a replica 45 of Drinking Wine Spodioti. Quite cute. Stick McGee on there. So it's on a replica Atlantic label with, I'm not sure if the label appeared on the original. I'm guessing it would be. I'm guessing they would have stayed accurate for that. The only problem I've got with this set is kind of the presentation in a way. The CDs they're in these sleeves like so. 10 sleeves. It's more compact than the Atlantic Rhythm Blues one. But my biggest problem is actually with the booklet, because the booklet itself, I said these should inform. Nice booklet, sure. It's mainly photos. Mostly photos. And this takes you up to 2009, I believe. Yeah, 47 to 2009. So it's in a more modern. So you're taking in the rock of Led Zeppelin and Cream and Vanilla Fudge, and you've also got the Stones are on there. You know, the Rolling Stone label was on there. Led Zeppelin Swan Song was distributed by Atlantic. Coming into people like Matchbox 20 and beyond, and the rapper R&B artists of the 2000s and beyond. Okay, but the trouble for me is that the photos are nice. Okay, but the liner notes can be somewhat hard to read. I mean, the liner notes are pretty minimal. It's like especially a photo book. Where the liner notes are printed like that, they're fairly a bit easier to read. But when you get toward the end here, and you've got all these track details here, that is tiny writing, and also it doesn't help, but some of it's printed in red, like so. When you're getting older, you need a magnifying glass or good glasses. Some of these are hard to read. I mean, there's some nice pictures of singles and stuff. That's fine. I like that, you know. I like that history, that ephemera that we get to see. Album covers, you know, single covers, that kind of thing. But when you got liner notes like that, talking about leading characters, that's a bit hard to read, really. You know, I'd have preferred a bigger book, with bigger writing, you know, and that's possible. You could have had that. There are some of the booklets in these long boxes that came out before, like the Otis Redding one. I should have brought that out. Fairly easy to read by comparison to that. It's nice that they've given us all this. It's pretty nice, but looking at the liner notes, there isn't really a lot in the way of history of the label. Now, I suppose most of that story's been told in the Atlantic Rhythm and Blues box, which, you know, I suppose is a repeat of the story. But then you're getting into the later period of the label, you know, and where it goes from there, right? And it becomes a more international body. But anyway, that's just a minor gripe on that box set. But you know, otherwise, it's a fairly good set. But anyway, there you have it. So I just wanted to show you those there. I hope that is helpful. A lot of you should be familiar with those Atlantic sets anyway. Those that are fans of soul music will already have those or will know about them. But if you're dipping your toes into soul music particularly, and particularly into that label, I would recommend that Atlantic Rhythm and Blues box set, the CD box particularly, if you want them on CD, right? The LPs are available. You can get them individually if you only want to go for one particular volume, like volume 6 for example. If you're a completist, you'll pretty want them all. And if you want to get them all, you can get them in that LP box. Maybe I hadn't actually, to be honest with you, I had never seen that LP box before. I wasn't aware they'd been boxed up until I saw it on eBay only recently, and I was surprised to see it. So there you go. But it is a nice companion piece to the Jazz box, you know, sitting side by side. It is very nice. So yeah, when you put them together. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, hit like and subscribe. Please leave a comment if you like what I've done. If you've got any comments, if you've got anything you want to tell me about these, something you might be able to educate me on. I'm a bit more au fait with soul music than I am with jazz, so I know a little bit more about it. Still not on the level of my knowledge of the Beatles, of course, but you know, I know things. You know, I know things. So anyway, all right then. I'll leave you to it. At least I fancy I do anyway. You know, okay, not friendly. I'll leave you to it. I shall see you around the traps. Hoping to do a few more videos along the way. I'm hoping to do more as I go along. I've been stuck at home, laid up with this broken leg. I'm a little bit mobile getting around the house, but I can't drive, which is the most frustrating thing. So I've got another 6 weeks of that. So yeah, that's how it is. Alright then, take care guys, and look after yourselves, and yeah, take care. Bye bye.